Cheese. All right, and welcome back to That's Some Cheese, part of the Vendetta Sports Podcast. Today is Monday, May 17th, 2021, and we have our Australian correspondent, NBA expert, Jarrod Prosser, back for another pod. He's been begging me to do this for like 2 months, and I feel bad. So we got him on today. Jarrod, how are you? What's up?
I don't know whether I was begging, Trey.
I
just thought it's been a while. We should do a pod. But as you said, there was a lot of NFL going on at the time, and I've got absolutely no idea with what's happening in the current NFL. I stopped watching it in about 2004, I think. So you had bigger things on your plate than little old me, so I get it, mate. But no, I've been doing well. Been very, very interested in this run into the season. This playing tournament, we hear a lot of stuff about how it's no good, mostly from LeBron and the LeBron acolytes. But my God, it's kept the games interesting. Teams actually have stuff to play for. It's really worked a treat.
Yeah, I do have some housekeeping notes. I will get to the play-in tournament stuff, but I have like 3 things to say first. Number 1, we have a new partner, Monkey Knife Fight. So let's link this in somewhere, wherever in the post. Use our code Vendetta, sign up, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. So all the states are not legalized yet, but just go on, check if you can sign up and do that. So that's exciting, isn't it?
For all of our people over in my side of the world, I'm not actually sure Monkey Knife Fight, which, by the way, is just an ass-kicking name.
It's awesome.
Anything. Like, I don't care whether you're selling muffins or herbal tea or you're an accounting firm. If you call yourself Monkey Knife Fight, I'm there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know whether people from Australia can jump on and bet. So we're still got to do a little bit of research on that side of it. But
yeah,
for those of you in the States, get amongst it.
Yeah. Second thing, all of the intern interviews are done. So the group that we hired are here. And so I actually wanted to ask you this. I added a new question in the intern interview format. I ask every single one, what is a unique or hidden talent about yourself? What makes Jarrod Prosser different?
I do like those sort of questions. As you know, in my other career, I do talent acquisition. Like, what I do is find talent for companies.
Why do you help me interview?
I'm on the wrong side of the world, man. But no, it is a question I like. I always go by.
Send me some of those questions next time that you got.
Hey, hit me up. I can help you out with that sort of stuff. I structure interviews for a living, man. So, no, I like to find out. I like to hire the person and train for the skill. As an old boss of mine said, and this ties into the Monkey Knife Fight thing, you can get any monkey to do any job. You just got to get the right monkey. And if you find the right person, you can get them to do anything. If they want to learn, they'll learn. If they want to do the job, they'll do the job. The most talented person in the world could be terrible at what they do, and we see that all the time in the NBA. Prodigious talents that just don't give a crap.
So what's the unique and hidden talent about Jarrod Prosser? How would you answer the question?
I don't know. I'd probably touch on my music. So
that's cool.
Play a few instruments, sing, and don't really.
We had 2 people anymore, that were like, I'm a sports encyclopedia. No, you're not. No, you're not, dude. That's not a unique and hidden.
We had one guy say, he was like, I'm an all-state golfer. And I was like, that's good. I mean, that's something different. That's the answer we're looking for. That's the kind of stuff we're looking for.
Yeah, I love golf, but Jesus Christ, that is
it's just a unique answer. Like, we're looking for those types of answers.
Yeah, but you're exactly right. And if you're going to say, I'm a sports encyclopedia, I'm an almanac, when you're coming to work for a sports website,
exactly,
that's dangerous ground. You're walking into
especially with a guy like me, they ain't going to be smarter than me.
Expertise. Well, this is the thing. Like, You know, if we wanted to start an old like an NBA history pod, you know, I could, you know, geez, I could talk for hours on the history of the NBA. My eldest still quizzes me on like who won this finals MVP and this MVP and this scoring title and things like that. It's a dangerous thing to walk into a sports website and say, I'm a sports expert. Everyone is a sports expert, even if it's just particular sports. It's the nature of the beast. It's come up with something better than that, you know?
Yeah. Last thing. So I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually a hockey guy now.
Yes, I am on Twitter, so I'm aware.
What are your thoughts on that?
On hockey in general, or you
No,
being a
just
hockey guy?
just me being a hockey guy.
Mate, I'm all for it. You run a sports website. You should be across all sports. I mean, I can't wait for, you know, to sit down with you on like a Friday night or Saturday night Melbourne time and walk you through an AFL game. Or sit down for 5 days with you and walk you through a cricket game, which might be a step too far. But no, the more sports, the better, mate. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just a little hockey note from me as a Rangers fan. What the fuck? Oh my God. Like, first of all, how what's his face from Washington, Wilson,
Oh,
you know, didn't
don't get me
go up on
started.
bloody assault. Oh, I know.
Joke.
How he wasn't up on assault charges, let alone anything else, is beyond me. But like, Christ, the organization for the first time in a long time is on the right track, and they've just gone, oh no, we better suck up to the overlords like Gary Bettman, some all powerful deity, and blow it all up. I just don't get it. I really don't get it.
They had way too slow of a start, and then they just fired everybody. And then I said last week that it sucked because when they were turning the corner and starting to win a lot of games down the stretch, they couldn't get back because Boston kept winning. Every time the Rangers wanted to get 2 points back, Boston won, so it didn't matter.
That's what Boston does, though. They just win.
Okay.
Except for
Especially
the
against
Shamrocks.
My boss's boss over here is from Montreal and huge Habs fan. And you know, every time I'd speak to her, we'd talk a bit of hockey. And I just said to her, look, we've got a better record than you, yet you're going to make the playoffs and we're not. That sucks ass. Like, it's just, yeah, I just, but this is what frustrates me. Like, if we were in any other division, literally any other division, the Rangers would be playing playoff hockey today.
I was saying that too. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
It sucks that
they've gone, that's not good enough.
They lined up the divisions this year where the Mass Mutual is packed with amazing teams. So it's just not, I don't want to say it's not fair because all the teams are good, but it's like,
oh, that stuff's cyclical. You know, there'll be times when there will be one team in that division who just kill everyone because everybody else is bad. You know, that stuff happens in cycles. But it's the thing that frustrates me is that it is literally the only division where we can't make the playoffs with the record that we had. That's the frustrating thing about it. But anyway,
anyway, as a hockey guy, I don't even know how the play-in tournament works right now. Why do the 7 and 8 seeds even play each other? Like, what's going on here?
So we're going back to NBA play-in seeds.
Yes, we're going back to NBA
all right.
stuff.
Okay, so in a nutshell, 7 and 8 play off for the right to go into the playoffs direct as a 7 seed, a one-off game. The 7 seed hosts. The loser of that game gets a second chance against the winner of 9 and 10, and they will host that game. So the 7th and 8th place teams get 2 opportunities to win a game to get into the playoffs. The 9th and 10th place teams, it's win or go home. They have to win twice, otherwise they're out.
What are your thoughts on it?
I really like it. I genuinely like it. This is the first time in forever that there are teams that everybody has something to play for, except maybe the Clippers today. But Yeah, they got what they wanted to get. They got away from the Lakers until the conference finals. So, good on them. But teams that were traditionally in that sort of 10, maybe 11 down had nothing to play for. It was all about the ping pong balls. So come the start of, I guess in this season it'd be start of April, but generally start of March, they put the cue in the rack. Now,
well,
right
LeBron
up
likes
until
the
the last
play-in
few days-
tournament, but when he has to play in the play-in tournament, he doesn't like it.
Oh God, wow! Look, it's
all that guy
one
does.
extra game. It's
Yeah.
one extra game.
Well, he
it
might be worried that he
two.
loses.
Oh, look, and we will actually cover that when we talk about the playing game. I think there's a fair bit of jeopardy there for
Well, why don't we do
for
that right
LeBron
now?
and AD. Okay, well it might be a good place to start. So you're comfortable with how the playing tournament runs now, Trey?
I'm whatever on it. If you're a 7 and 8 seed, don't cry about it. Get a better seed.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll go west, talk Lakers Warriors.
Steph's hot, huh? He's so hot, he's ripping his shirt off. Did you see that?
Oh man, he is supernova at the moment. Like who stops him on that Lakers team? Who stops Curry? Like KCP might get first dibs at him, but good defender and all, but unless Curry is,
do we know
what
version of Schroeder is going to show up? Because that's probably the key, right?
The best version of Schroeder isn't going to stop anyone, let alone Curry. He's never been a defensive player,
but he's got to be at least good on the offensive end.
He does. He needs to hit the three ball. And look, that's a team wide thing. The Lakers are something like 21st in 3-point percentage and 25th in makes, or maybe the other way around. But this is a team that, as a whole, just does not hit the three. If they can do that, suddenly lanes open up for LeBron and AD, and they just stroll in and dunk it and get layups. But Schroeder is probably the key to that, depending on how much Gasol plays as well, is whether he can hit the three. But you're right. Schroeder is a big key. He's got to be the third best offensive player on that team to beat the Warriors.
I think the Warriors might beat him.
I think they can as well.
It's a one-game thing. If Curry's hot,
that's exactly it. Without wanting to bury the lead, I think on the back of a Curry masterclass, the Warriors will get the 7 seed.
Wouldn't that be fascinating? Your Utah Jazz get the number 1 seed, and then they get stuck with the Lakers as the 8.
Well, we could get the number 1 seed and get stuck with Steph Curry as well. So,
yeah.
But this is what I like about the playing tournament. Like it's, I touched on it before, but we saw the Clippers just like completely out-tank the Thunder to avoid the 3 seed in the last game of the season. But we've still got games even after the regular season where teams can sit there and, let's say neither team wants to play Phoenix for some reason. Do they decide to, not go quite as hard in that 7 and 8 game, but then give themselves the opportunity of getting knocked out by a fluky result? There's all these different connotations that come into it now. So I really like this playing tournament. But back to this game, the Lakers are currently the number 7 seed. So assuming that they stay there, even though we've already put it on record that we think the Dubs will win, they might be the most dangerous 7 seed in, I don't know, possibly like the history of the 8 seed playoff format.
The more the NBA goes on, it's like these teams don't care about the regular season at all.
Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's you care enough to secure yourself a reasonable seed, but you don't go all out. We've seen that with the Bucks in the last 2 years. They have gone hell for leather to get the number 1 seed, and it's gotten them nowhere because they didn't have any alternatives. They had they hadn't had the chance to work on any sort of plans. But yeah, look, I honestly think
So
And
we
this is what
think
you touched on
we think
before.
Memphis and San Antonio have no shot, right? It's just going to be Lakers Warriors that get in.
If they play the Warriors, the winner of that team plays the Warriors. I would assume, and I would expect that Memphis will absolutely maul San Antonio.
I mean, they should.
Yeah, I mean, with no Derek White as well, and they've really struggled since White's been out. But you know, like Pirtle can do a reasonable job on Valanciunas, who very quietly has been Memphis's best player this year.
Pirtle the turtle.
Pirtle the turtle. You know, DeJounte Murray could do a bit of a job on Jar. They could potentially slow those two down, but then who steps up and stops Jaren Jackson Jr.? Who holds out? You know, if the shooters get hot, Grayson Allen and Desmond Bain, who stops them? There's just not enough defensive options on that San Antonio team anymore.
San Antonio just has to hope that Dillon Brooks loses the game by himself.
One of those 9 for 33 games that he's
due for one of those.
He's involved. You know, you can always say he's involved, for better or worse.
There's probably a couple people on the site we can throw as a Dillon Brooks. They're involved.
Oh, yeah, it's the polite way of saying pass the fucking ball, isn't it? Look, the Spurs have had it hard. I mean, they've had a lot of disruption between injuries, between COVID, between cutting LMA. They've had a lot of disruption this season. They're a team that is pretty good defensively. They've got good defensive players and a brilliant defensive coach, but much like the Lakers, they can't hit a damn three unless it's Patty Mills or occasionally Lonnie Walker. They just don't have anybody who is a consistent 3-point threat on that team. So they've got no one.
Popovich doesn't like hitting the three, though.
But he has done it before in that last championship. That bench unit of Manu. I
just like to rub Alex the wrong way.
It's not hard.
All you got to do is call Popovich old and washed up. Gets him going. Doesn't have it anymore. He's not into the three ball.
And call Lonnie Walker the new Dillon Brooks. But Pop has Pop has always been a coach who has moved with the times. As much as he's old and curmudgeon and all that, but he's smart. You know, he knows what he needs to do. He can find the best option for his team. Unfortunately, this team just doesn't have a lot of good options. They're a legitimate 10 seed. You know, this is a side that we wouldn't be talking about at this stage if it wasn't for the playing tournament. But yeah, look, I just, outside of who matches up on DeRozan, which could possibly be Winslow now that he's back, I don't know who on that Spurs team can put enough points on the board to beat Memphis. I think Memphis will win that by a lot. I don't think it'll even be a contest, frankly.
Eastern Conference. I don't even want to talk about my team. Can we just put them to the wayside? Let's just.
I want to talk about your team.
Let's just forget they don't even exist. I'm a hockey guy anyway.
Oh no. No. Let's talk about the Celtics. Alex, we
is that necessary?
We put down on the run sheet about 45 minutes to discuss the Celtics, didn't we?
Yeah, I think it's on there. I just put that on the checklist right there.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk lots and lots and lots of Boston Celtics, Trey. You should love this. So, look, it's been a bit of a season from hell, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned it, and look, I'll admit you were right on this. I didn't think Gordon Hayward would be as big a loss as he's proven to be. He'd be a loss, but I didn't expect him to be.
They don't move the ball. That's the biggest problem.
No. I didn't expect him to be as significant a loss as what he has been. But when you throw in everything else, Walker not being right until late in the season, as he's right, Brown's dropped out. Tristan Thompson just
ain't it.
It hasn't worked. Trading away Daniel Tice has been a net loss for them. Fournier comes in, gets COVID. Yeah, it's poor,
Yep.
poor bloke, and yeah, he's been quite open about the effect that that's had on his game. He's really only found his rhythm in the last, and it hasn't
2
quite
days.
been at his best either. Yeah, it's really only been the last week that he started to look like himself again. So it's no surprise that you're in the 7 seed, but the unfortunate side of it, whereas the Lakers have got players coming back, the Warriors have started to gel with that starting 5 of Looney and Bazemore in for Oubre and Wiseman. You guys are going the other way. You're
Oh, they're
dropping
screwed.
like a stone, and you're coming up against a red hot side. And this is the bit that I really want to touch on. You're coming up against a red hot Westbrook.
Well, hold on a
that's
second.
got to sting. That's got to sting, right?
If they weren't
You
playing
of all
Washington,
people.
I'd just rather have them lose. Just get them out of here. The only reason I want them to
off.
The only reason I want them to win is because they're playing Westbrook.
Look, I'm sorry to say, Trey, it's not going to happen. This Washington side, remember, this is a side that was expected to make.
Well, we thought,
the
right?
playoffs.
They were gonna, like we said before the year, I think they're better than Atlanta. That didn't work out that way, but
the reason for that is that, of all the sides that got affected by COVID, they were the one that was affected the most. Between Westbrook not having a preseason because of his calf and then getting sick, they lost
he was
2 or 3
awful.
players. Then they lose Bryant with his knee. Oh, he was terrible when he came back. But as we've seen with Fournier, who's been very open and vocal about the effects it's had, Westbrook didn't say a hell of a lot. He just looked like he was struggling. But now he's got his sea legs under him and he's looking like a vintage Russell Westbrook at the moment. And that's allowed Beal, who just hauled that team on his back for the first 35, 40 games, to be that perfect on-ball, off-ball option that he can kill you in any way that he chooses, depending on the situation. He doesn't have to, be the be-all and end-all anymore. You look at a guy like Davis Bertans, he's due. He's had a terrible season. He's had the odd little flourish here where he's hit 4 or 5 threes, but he's due to have one of those streaks of half a dozen games that he has where he will shoot 70% from 3 for a week on high volume. He just hasn't had one this season, and he has one every year.
You know who I'm most worried about? I think Hachimama might tear them up in the post.
Well, yeah, with Brown out, who do you have that could guard him?
Nobody.
I don't know. Does Ojale?
Here's a great stat for you. Ojale drives me insane. He had 0 blocks on the entire season. Ojale. Not one.
Hashtag rim protection. Really,
he drives me insane because he's jacked up. Like, he's got big arms. When he was at SMU, he was like lighting the world on fire, and he's just soft.
He's not exactly a big baby anti-leaping type either. Like, he can get off the ground.
Yeah.
He's not he's not prime Tracy McGrady.
I'd love to know what his vertical was, because it can't be that bad.
No, he looks like a good athlete. He looks like he gets off the ground pretty well.
And he's jacked out of his mind.
I'm quite stunned. I mean, maybe that's
0
his
blocks.
Shoulders are too muscly. He can't get his arms above there. But I'm really shocked at that. He genuinely has had 0 blocks this season.
0 blocks.
Far out. That's astonishing. Oh man. No, look, you touched on Rui, and I actually reckon that's a good point. Rui is the sort of guy that if you put a good defender on him, he just doesn't have the craft yet to be able to beat them. But he's just such a big, solid, like, he's a man-child. He's huge.
He's going to carve them up.
He'll just run his shoulder through someone's chest and get to the bucket. He gets that ball at the high post, and he doesn't really have moves. He just throws himself at the basket. And if you're not big enough and crafty enough, he will go through you and he'll get to the hole. So I don't know whether whether there's some matchup play that can be done there if Tristan Thompson guards him, because Thompson is crafty enough and strong enough, and that means he doesn't have to defend anyone who's got moves either. So it might be a win-win. Yeah, look, I just can't see, unless Tatum goes for high 30s and Walker goes for 30 and Marcus Smart can lock down one of those two guards. And frankly, the biggest, I guess the biggest thing you can hope for as a Boston fan is that Westbrook's the game.
Which is possible. Very possible.
It's very possible. He has a 7 for 27, 1 for 9 from 3, and just throws the ball around wildly and only passes it when he has to, so that guys are just taking shots under pressure. Because
just have it close within the last 2 minutes and we're good.
Oh, and Westbrook could absolutely Westbrook it. But the other side of it is, Westbrook has to be guarded by Smart, because Westbrook, he loves to take little guys down into the post. You put Kemba on him, even if you put Fournier on him, who's taller but he's not particularly strong, he'll just bully ball him down in the low block. But that means that someone who isn't a good defender has to take Bradley Beal. And God have mercy on that defender's soul, because Beal will cook them. So I just don't see how this version of the Celtics, and it's unfortunate to say because Boston should be so much better than this in normal circumstances, but I just don't see how
they don't have anybody that moves the ball. It's Tatum. He stands there for like 5-10 seconds and he just kind of does his thing, and then he takes a bad shot, and then no, it's Brown's turn. He'll just stand there for 5 to 10 seconds and he'll do his thing. And here's Kemba Walker, and he'll drive to the lane and he'll throw up some ridiculous layup and doesn't pass the ball. Like Hayward was that really, and nobody realized it. He was a magic elixir. He moved the ball. He got things going. They don't have that.
He's a very, very smart basketballer. As much as being a Utah fan, I still consider him dead to me. He is an extremely clever basketballer. Yeah. I saw it for years in Utah. He's just very wise. He's an old head. Even when he was young, he just knew how to play the game. So yeah, I think we're both happy to say that the Wiz are going to go through as the 7th seed.
I can't, with a good conscience, take Westbrook. Ever.
Well,
I do want to say this though. I mean, as we continue to talk down on the Celtics, I mean, it's not like they're done if they lose this game, because they still would have to play that winner of the Hornets and the Pacers. So regardless, we can probably go and say, I mean, they will probably lose to Sabonis if they win that game, but still, it's not like they're going to be done if they get their asses handed to Westbrook and the Wizards.
No, and that's a perfect segue into the Pacers Hornets game. I actually think it's going to be a really interesting game, that one. I expect the Pacers to win it, but I'm whatever other games are on it though, I actually want to watch that one because I want to watch that backcourt matchup. I want to see Karis LeVert and Malcolm Brogdon against Rozier and LaMelo Ball. I think that matchup could be really, really captivating. And it will, no matter what happens, it will be a hell of a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, somehow the Charlotte Hornets have a better point guard after they swapped Rozier and Kemba Walker. How the hell did that happen?
Yeah, I outside of Terry Rozier and Terry Rozier's mother, I'm not sure anyone expected that.
I hated him when he was on the Celtics. I hated him.
Well,
he drove me nuts.
He was I guess he matured by the time he got to Charlotte. You as Boston did all of the, or had.
He was like a bad version of Clarkson.
And so Boston. he was like a Clarkson version of Clarkson 3 years ago. For that game, I'm really excited for the backcourt, but I'm also interested to see what happens with Sabonis. And I kind of hope the Pacers get in, and I think the Pacers will get in. I think they will beat Charlotte, and I think they will beat Boston. But I'm really, no, I do. I honestly think they will. Okay. I just think Celtics are, as Alex said, they're not, it's not a fait accompli that Boston will lose to Indiana. I think that will be a
So
real
is there any
toss-up of a game.
possibility here? Hey, maybe we can jump up in the lottery and get Jalen Suggs. Is that what I'm rooting for?
So some frozen envelope thing happening here, or now look, I'm interested to see what happens with Sabonis. He's clearly Indiana's best player, and he's an offensive savant. The guy is just magnificent to watch on offense, but he is flammable on defense, especially as a center. He's just not fast, and he does not protect the rim. Now, against Charlotte, that's not going to matter because Charlotte center can't catch. Unless you literally hand it to Bismack Biyombo, he's probably going to drop the ball. So that's not really going to make an impact in that Charlotte game. And to be honest, it probably won't make too much of a difference in the Boston game because Tristan Thompson isn't burning anyone. But let's say Indiana get in. They play who's the number 1 seed, Sixers. You can't have Sabonis on Embiid late in the game. So does Nate Bjorkgren, does he start doing offense for defense subs late in the game against the Sixers with his best player? I'm pushing ahead a little bit in the schedule here, but I'm interested to see what happens in those sort of situations.
I'm surprised you didn't bring up Miles Turner.
Subs. He
was really good defensively.
He's magnificent defensively. He and Gobert were pretty much neck and neck for defensive player of the year until he got hurt. But he's done for the season. So it will be Sabonis or Goga who have to guard Embiid. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see offensive defense subs late in the game with the best player on the Pacers. And I don't think I've ever seen that sort of situation done with such a good player before.
All right, let's do some Eastern Conference stuff, and then we'll maybe revisit. I don't know.
Well, we've done the plains. Do you want to? Yeah. Do we want to talk New York, or do we want to look at the Milwaukee series?
New York, as in Knicks.
The world champions elect New York Knicks.
Can I bring this up when it comes to the Knicks? It's time to trade Karl Anthony Towns. That's my takeaway on it.
Trade for Karl Anthony Towns.
No, trade Minnesota, get rid of him. Karl Anthony Towns has established himself as one of the biggest cancers in the league. For Thibodeau to go to New York and thrive with a team that's really not that good. I mean, they got some scrappy guys, but they're not a 4 seed in the East.
No. Do you remember my Coach of the Year contenders column a couple of weeks back? I listed the players that he has. Randall was essentially a failed lottery pick up until this season. His second best player was probably Mitchell Robinson, who spent half the season injured. RJ has developed really well, but the rest of it, we're talking
quickly.
Alfred Payton, Frankie Smokes, Reggie Bullock. He's bounced around the league. I love Reggie Bullock, but he has bounced around the league. And he's
Derrick Rose,
legitimate 3-and-D. Well, he was always going to go back to New York.
Yeah, you knew that.
Oh man, but look, Rose, to his credit, has been excellent.
Great for them.
Really,
totally.
Really good. Yeah.
But this Knicks team plays hard.
Oh, they do. They do.
He couldn't get the Minnesota team to play hard.
No, and I wonder though whether that was a bunch of young, there were a bunch of young kids there who did not know how to play defense. And Tibbs, it's his way or the highway. I just think Tibbs was the wrong coach for them, and we're seeing it now. Chris Finch has come in, an offensive genius, and fair enough, they've got some better players
they
now.
Still stink.
Beasley and Russell. Yeah, have you looked at their records in the last few weeks? If they play out that record, I think it's their last 3 weeks or last.
They're 5-5 in their last 10, which is, I guess, is an improvement.
Well, it is, and they still haven't got all their players on the floor. But no, this team, I honestly think this team, if you throw Russell, Beasley, Edwards, and Towns out on the floor, that team could get lit up for 120 a game, but there's every chance they'll score 130 on you.
I'm waiting for
And
Minnesota to be
they're
like,
being
"Hey,
used
Towns,
properly now.
Towns, carry us to at least a playoff berth." They're not close.
No, but like Ryan Saunders was just awful as a coach. He could not get them to do anything. And there's an old coach of mine, and I've often used this phrase. An old coach of mine said, "A good coach will add 10% to a team, but a bad coach can take away 30%." And Ryan Saunders was clearly taking away 30% from that team. So you can see the difference since they got Finch in, how much better they look and how much better their record is, how much better Edwards is. And at the same time, as Edwards got better, that was when they got Towns back for, on and off with his injuries. But at the same time, they got D'Angelo Russell back. They got Beasley back after his 5 or 6 weeks out. So things started to gel for them. I don't think in the West they'll be a playoff team next season, but this
is not a problem.
Would be a legitimate shot, but they would be a legitimate shot at the play-in. I think they'll be around the bottom end of the plane, and that is progress for that side. They're still really young.
We were kind of convinced, though, Tom Thibodeau plays this guy's too many minutes. Kind of a hard ass. Maybe he's gotten this defensive wizard gene, but his team isn't playing good defense. Now it's like, wow, you got this Knicks team as a 4 seed. How did that happen? Maybe Towns just isn't that good.
He'll never be great defensively. He has improved, but I just think he was the wrong coach for the wrong team at the wrong time. Even someone like Randall, he was pretty much on his last chance as a number 1 guy this season. If Thibodeau had come along to the Randall from 3 seasons ago when he left the Lakers, when he still thought, I am the big shot, I'll do everything my way, we might have had the same result. Sometimes you get knocked enough that you get the arrogance knocked out of you as a player. And I think part of Randall's maturity has come from just being beaten up upon by people like us, who look at him and go, this guy's so talented, he should be doing so much better. And he's finally.
Would you consider that a trait of mine, that I need to get more beaten out of me, or am I mature?
Ooh. Probably have this talk off air, Trey. Not sure. Do I denigrate the boss live on a podcast?
Well, Emma Brown, I don't know if you saw that the other week. She just chucked me the finger live on a podcast.
Yeah, no, she's braver than me.
Yeah.
Even from the other side of the world, I'm scared. So, no, look, it's everyone needs a little bit of cockiness, a little bit of arrogance to do what they do. But I think that group wasn't ready for Thibodeau, and I don't think that group was ready for Jimmy Butler either, because he is a completely different. He's a different cat. There's a reason that he wore out his welcome in Chicago. There's a reason he wore out his welcome in Minnesota, and there's a reason he lasted 6 months in Philly. But there's also a reason that he has settled beautifully into Miami. That is the culture that is made for Jimmy Butler. I don't think Minnesota, particularly at that stage, had the culture that could handle either Butler or Tibbs.
So I guess real quick, I'm going to pick the Knicks.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, look, I honestly, I think the Knicks will absolutely romp this in. Julius Randle has averaged 38 points a game against the Knicks this season. Collins can't stop him. He's not big enough. Capella can't stop him.
I think they're going to beat up Trae Young too.
Oh, they do. They throw everything at him. Trae's shooting something like 36, 37%.
That's like the team that Trae Young does not want to see.
No, they just, because they're all, like, as much as we sort of, throw shade at Ntilikina and Peyton, they are really good defensive point guards. Both of them, and especially Frankie Smokes, they're great defensive point guards. They're not going to win you a game off their own hand, but they can stop the other guy from doing that, and they do that with Trae Young. An interesting battle with those two teams is going to be the bench. Derrick Rose leads one bench Bogdanovic leads the other, and they are two of the best benches in the NBA. So it'll be interesting to see which benches come out on top. There's also, and I was surprised at this. So, like, I probably shouldn't have been thinking about it more, but initially I was surprised that there's a real lack of playoff experience on both of those rosters. Outside of Capella and, excuse me, Gallinari, I don't think there's anyone out of like the top 8 or 9 scorers for Atlanta who's played a playoff game. And we'll throw a bit of trivia at you, Alex, as the Knicks man. How many playoff games out of the Knicks' top 6 players are on that roster? How many playoff games is that the top 6 played?
I would say 1 or 2.
Oh no, it's more than that.
Really? Because it's a Barrett obviously hasn't played any. You can throw Randall in that, right? He got playoff experience. No, not with LA and that.
The Lakers were awful during those years.
Yeah, Randall hasn't played a playoff game.
Yeah, so I thought you kind of trying to trick me there by saying make him say 0 to make him look like shit.
No, it's still it's 16, and 12 of those are Nerlens Noel, who wouldn't even be a starter
and that's
regular.
Yeah.
I almost forgot he was on the team.
Well, he's actually been carrying since Robinson hasn't been there. That's the problem too. He wasn't supposed to be in that role.
See, he's another one to use that Randall analogy of people who've taken a lot of lumps despite being, golden children.
Remember when he turned down that contract from Dallas?
Yep.
Well, you look at him when he was at the Sixers too, and he's put through the ringer over there.
Yeah, he's someone who's taken a lot of lumps, and I think he's at the right point in his career, the right point in his, I guess, maturity to be on a team with Tom Thibodeau. I don't think the Nerlens Noel of 3 years ago would have survived Tibbs. Tibbs may have actually killed him. I mean, Rick Carlisle wanted to kill him. So I think it's just one of those, right man at the right time things. But yeah, Reggie Bullock's got 4 games, and Noel, who wouldn't be your starter in normal circumstance, has the other 12.
That's nuts.
So
I would not have thought that.
Teams, it'll be interesting to see how these teams cope with the playoffs, because some players take to it like a duck to water. Others deer in the headlights in their first 2 or 3 games.
Like that, duck to water. I gotta find a way to use that.
You haven't heard that one?
No.
Oh, it must be an Australian idiom. It's a really regular
I'm
one
using
over
that somewhere at some time. I haven't figured out when.
Oh, you'll find your place.
I will.
Naturally. But no, I honestly think New York, they can just throw too much at Atlanta, and I don't think Atlanta can slow down Randall. So I really think this will be 4 games, maybe 5.
I think this is a great first matchup for the Knicks in the playoffs. Haven't been there in so long. Great first matchup to get back in there in the playoff atmosphere.
It is. It absolutely is. Any other side would have been a worse matchup. Literally any other side. The only way Atlanta can win this series for me is if their players adapt to the spotlight better than the Knicks players who haven't been there.
We have actually a rematch, Milwaukee, Miami, right?
Oh man, my youngest.
It's the last team the Bucks wanted to see, right?
Absolutely. I mean, look, fair enough. Milwaukee appear to have learned from the last 2 seasons. Great defensive point guard in Bledsoe who could not hit the side of a barn. So they've gone and fair enough, they paid a high price for Holiday, but I think he's been worth it so far because he gives. How did Miami beat Milwaukee last season? It was wall off the paint, don't leave Middleton, and dare Bledsoe and Lopez and DiVincenzo to beat you, and they couldn't. I mean, Bledsoe was never going to do it. Lopez.
Well, I was going to say more like Giannis couldn't barrel through 5 guys anymore.
But that's the issue. That was exactly what they did. They just walled off the paint. And, Lopez, yes, he's got the Splash Mountain nickname, but he's really only a shooter in reputation. If you look at his percentages,
not good.
He's not a great 3-point shooter. Frankly, he's below average.
He in fact should stop.
But
shooting.
that was, Miami did their homework. Well, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you'd probably, when Giannis is off, you'd almost rather him go into the low post where he's still really, really good. But Miami just said, well, let's just wall the paint off with 4 people and see whether these guys can shoot their way past us, and they couldn't. But now with Tucker, now with Bobby Portis, who I really didn't expect Portis to have the season he's had. He's been surprisingly good. And of course, with Holiday, they have extra shooting out there. And in Holiday, they have an extra playmaker out there as well. All of a sudden, it doesn't have to be Giannis, steering the pick and roll. He can be the screener. And God almighty, that's a scary role man, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like, if he's rolling down the lane, getting a pocket pass, what do you do?
He should do that more often.
Absolutely, they should. Absolutely. And they have done it a fair bit. And this is the other side of where I think Milwaukee's learned. Bud has a really, really good system. Now, it's worked so well in Atlanta. It's worked really well in Milwaukee. But he has changed a lot of things up. He's experimented a lot more this season. It's cost Milwaukee wins, especially early in the season. But I think it's worth it if he comes up with a plan B. Because Giannis, very quietly, has had just as good a season as his 2 MVP campaigns. It just hasn't had the press. And that's partly because of the playoff blowouts. But Giannis is just as good as he has been the last few years. Middleton has been just as good as he's been the last few years. And they've now got extra weapons. I think Milwaukee are really, really dangerous. But what happens? Like, do those mental scars from last season come back as soon as they see those black uniforms?
Good.
It could.
I was actually going to bring this up. Might be a good thing Oladipo's not playing. Am I crazy?
No, you're absolutely not. He is like, in our little my little hoop heads chat over here amongst all of us who used to play. It's been like a regular thing for months now. Olynyk better than Oladipo.
I'm being serious. I think it might be a good thing he's not playing.
No, I think it absolutely is. He's just like, he's a guy that relies on speed, and he hasn't got the speed, the explosiveness anymore. And that's unfortunate. It's not his fault, but he hasn't. We're talking about Milwaukee developing counters. Oladipo has not developed a counter for when his speed goes, and his speed has gone quicker than what he would have expected due to his leg injuries. But he hasn't developed anything outside of, I'm going to get to the basket.
Hey, that's what Houston wanted for Harden.
Yeah, exactly. I still don't know why. For the life of me, I don't know why they on-traded LeVert for Oladipo. That's just a ridiculous trade. But anyway, that one will frustrate me. Oh God, no! They're laughing all the way to the bank. And yeah, Kevin Pritchard, very underrated GM. He's gotten, he got Sabonis and Oladipo for Paul George, and everybody said ridiculous trade. Turns out it went really well for them. He turned Miles Turner in. A lot of people didn't think Miles Turner was going to be as good as he has been. Everybody laughed at what he paid for Brogdon, both in draft picks and in contract, and he's been proven absolutely right. Doug McDermott was a journeyman, and he's turned him into a legitimate 6 Man of the Year candidate. He's taken TJ Warren. They got TJ Warren for like a half-eaten box of donuts. And before his injury, he was outstanding. Like, Pritchard he's a really good GM, very underrated GM. But
so who's your pick here? Who's your pick here?
Oh, look, I'm not saying this with a hell of a lot of confidence, but I'll say Bucks in 6.
Okay.
But I'm not saying it with too much confidence. One tactic I'm really looking to see is whether, like, Miami won't be able to wall off the paint, not with these shooters around. So that leaves Bam on an island. And how does he cope? He's obviously an outstanding defender, probably the best center at moving his feet in the entire league. But Giannis is a different
I think his goatee gives him superpowers or something. I swear, if you just took Bam's goatee away, he'd stink. I think that's what it is.
It's like the little goatees. There's an old episode of South Park where there were all the kids came from another dimension. They were the same kids but with goatees, and they were all evil, except for Cartman, who was really, really nice. But it was the complete flip. Anyway, completely random memory there. No, sorry, that's the complete non sequitur.
Not sorry. That's what makes the pods. Must have clipped that one.
Now, what do you reckon? I think Jimmy Butler and Drew Holiday are going to spend a lot of time on each other as well. What do you reckon? How do you reckon that'll turn out?
I'm more so curious to see, like, are we getting a angry Jimmy Butler, or are we getting like a angry but like good Jimmy Butler? Because I don't think he's been on that like bubble playoff run this year than he was. Like that bubble playoff run, we were like, wow, Jimmy Butler might be the number one player on a real championship team.
Yeah. Well, he was legitimately the number one on a contender. But again, that bubble, that environment, that very.
Are we ever going to get the good Tyler Hero again?
Yes, but probably not this season. I think
Duncan Robinson might be in for like a $80 million extension. What's he on the market?
You know what? Based on what Joe Harris got,
that's what I'm saying.
$80 million to be fair. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with you.
But who would have said that 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Well, I mean, someone like a Matt Bonner, he'd be absolutely cursing the fact that he was born 15 years, 20 years too soon. He could have had a 150 million in career earnings if he'd come around now. But back then 6'10" white guys who can't do anything but catch and shoot.
He got a big payday.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that's probably a better analogy because Robinson at least runs. Bonner didn't run; he just caught and shoot. For this one, Bucks in 6, but yeah, I could be talked around the other way for this one.
Let's do the West since we don't exactly know who the East top 2 teams are playing, and we'll probably come back to it at some point. We have like another rematch here, actually. Clippers Mavs. The Mavs have been at least working their way up the standings. There was a period in time like, wow, they're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they were another team that were affected by COVID and
I thought they were going to be a 3 seed and like really good.
Yeah, but they are better than a 5 seed. And it's the West. There's plenty of sides that would be 3 seeds in the East that end up as a 5 and 6 in the West, and that's been that way for 20 years.
Don't the Clippers almost feel like the Bucks too, where they're like pressure's kind of off, nobody's watching them as much, they're no longer like, ooh, let's just wave the white flag now, let's give it to the Clippers. It's not the case.
No, I disagree because Milwaukee has all of their main guys under contract. They can run it back. They can have a really good season and run it back, whereas Paul George and Kawhi Leonard can opt out at the end of this season.
At the end of this year, they can opt out?
Yeah.
I thought it was next year.
No.
I thought it was the following year.
No, the option is for next season. So if they go down like 4-1 in the first round and it's a shit show like it was against the Nuggets last season, there could be hell to pay.
But nobody has cap space either, though, right? I mean, I guess you can work around that, but
if it's Kawhi Leonard or Paul George, you find a way.
I feel like Kawhi would be way more likely to leave.
So I don't know. It's tough to say. They're both LA
because Paul George, Paul George really wanted to go to the Lakers. He really wanted to go back to LA. I don't know, but Kawhi's just a wild card.
But Kawhi also made the choice. Like, he didn't have to be traded. He made the choice to go back there. So I don't know. But for me, there is an urgency to the Clippers that makes them different to Milwaukee because, like, they could blow it up at the end of this year. The Stars could say, this hasn't worked, I'm going somewhere else. So, but no, with that one, Yeah, look, the Clippers, last season it was all about chemistry. That was the reason that they didn't, that it all didn't work for them. They just weren't a team, so to speak. I'm not sure that they've got that chemistry yet either. They still look a bit disjointed at times in offense. There's still a little bit of.
You're gonna think I'm crazy for this one. Rajon Rondo is a good thing.
He could well be. I mean, look, playoff Rondo is a thing.
He's at least an upgrade
thing.
over what we were seeing with Lou Williams.
Yeah. Well, Lou Williams was redundant on this team.
Yes.
He made such an impact because there were no scorers on that first unit when the Clippers made those runs 3 or 4 years ago. But now with all of these offensive weapons there, what do you need Lou Williams for? And Harold's not there. He's, dance partner. So Lou Williams, and the other thing is he was fading. Offensively, he was fading. And defensively, he's a turnstile and has been for 10 years. So getting Rondo, who you at least know will do stuff in the playoffs. He might not hit threes the way that Lou Williams does, but you don't need him to score 20 points.
And they need guys that'll move the ball.
Exactly.
Because Marcus Morris, that thing's a black hole. You're not getting it back.
But to be honest, a lot of the Clippers are like that. There's not a lot of ball movement, and that's where Rondo is important. He will make the extra pass. He can be.
So you don't think I'm crazy?
No, there's a lot of things I think you're crazy for, but this is a legitimately good take. Color me shocked, but I think he could be, he could be that sort of player that you were saying Hayward was for Boston. He's that guy that just links everything up. Batum the same. Batum's a really willing extra passer. He has made a really, really big difference to that side simply because he's quite happy to not score. He'll just, if I'm open, I'll shoot it. If I'm not, I'll pass it. Really simple basketball. Really simple basketball. But it's what that team needs.
So who's your pick here?
And you mentioned Marcus Morris. But that matchup could be really, really interesting. I expect that Ty Lue will pull Patrick Beverley out of the starting lineup and leave Reggie Williams in, purely so that he can put Beverley onto Jalen Brunson, because Brunson is so important.
How about him?
He's magnificent. He's a really, really good basketballer. But I think they'll go with Pat Bevs as the backup point guard just to match him with Brunson's minutes. And they'll throw Marcus Morris onto Luka to start with. But an interesting question is, how long does it take until Ty Lue goes, all right, PG, you have a crack at Luka. Kawhi, you go and lock him up. How long does it take for Ty Lue until he pulls out the trump cards on defense and dares every other Maverick to beat them?
I was actually going to bring that up because we've kind of mentioned this before, but in that circumstance, how important would it be to have Seth Curry right now on this Mavs team?
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand the theory of Richardson. At the start of the season when we spoke, we were both really high on that move, as much as it did take away some shooting. And Tim Hardaway has replaced some of that shooting. He's been exemplary. But Richardson just hasn't worked. He hasn't been the same player since he left Miami. He should be a good ball mover, a good defender, can play make a little bit and can shoot, but he hasn't really done any of those things all that well. If they can get the Richardson that Miami had, then all of a sudden you've got your complementary playmaker, and it doesn't matter that Luka gets swamped by Kawhi Leonard. I just don't see that happening. I still think this series is a toss-up, because I trust Carlisle's coaching more than I trust Ty Lue's as well. Carlisle is a masterful tactician.
And I think it matters what Porzingis we're getting.
Do we get Porzingis?
I don't know.
Well, and this is a good question, A, do we get Porzingis? But B, if we get him, what Porzingis do we get?
That's why I don't know.
Yeah. And is it better if he doesn't play and you get that consistent?
See, how crazy is that?
Yeah, you get consistent hard rim.
Don't even smile over there, producer Alex. Don't even smile over there.
Remember, you gave up Tim Hardaway in that trade as well, so it still didn't work for you.
Yeah, you're right about that one.
Yeah. But does that consistent metronomic rim running of Dwight Powell and Willie Cauley-Stein?
You're a big Dwight Powell guy.
Not necessarily. No, I've never been that big on him. Like he's a good player.
You find a way to bring him up at least once every show, though.
Well, that's mostly because I just don't trust Porzingis. So the natural next step is, well, who's the next center off the bench? And it's Powell. But is his type of play going to be more important than a 7'3" guy who can shoot but can't post up? So, and I genuinely don't know the answer to that.
I'm taking the Clippers. I just feel like they're the safer bet.
Yeah, I'm taking the Clips, but I think it'll go all the way. I think Carlisle will have enough adjustments to make this go 7, but I think the Clips will win it. Just too much star power.
Okay. Trailblazers Nuggets. Kind of an interesting one. They've played in the playoffs before, but this time there's no Murray. So
no, that's the only thing that'll keep this like even vaguely close, I think. Like on Denver's defensive end, who guards that three-headed monster in Lillard and Powell? Like, those three could go for 9.
Well, Barton doesn't do it for you?
No. I think they will throw Barton. They'll throw Monty Morris at whoever happens to be hot.
I like Monty Morris.
I actually think they'll throw Aaron Gordon. Yeah, Morris is a good defender. He's a really good defender. I think they'll throw Aaron Gordon at them as well, just to try and give him a different look. He doesn't quite have the foot speed, particularly with Lillard and Powell, but being so much bigger and stronger, he can just knock guys away from their spots, and he's got the length and athleticism to bother them. Now, he can take a step off Lillard, and he's still got 6'8" and spring heeled. He can still bother that shot. So I wouldn't surprise me if Aaron Gordon gets some reps on whichever of those three happens to be the hottest, probably Lillard. But the issue is, and as it always is with the Blazers, who are they going to stop? Powell's a reasonable defender. McCollum is, on his best day, reasonable. Lillard is not good.
They lost that Powell trade, by the way.
I don't know. I think it's actually worked for both teams. I think it's been a genuine win-win. I expected it to be a Toronto win marginally, that trade, but I think it's been a genuine win-win. It's turned out as an all right trade. But again, we've had half a season, and it's been half of this bizarre season. So it's probably too early to tell. But yeah, you look at Portland, like Nurkic can defend Jokic in the post, but he can't go to the outside with him. Jokic is just too tricky. Covington is, for all of his defensive reputation, he's not a good one-on-one defender. He's an elite help defender. And that, you want to double.
He was actually perfect for the Rockets.
He was. He was ideal. Absolutely ideal. Him as the small ball center worked a treat. Mm-hmm. But against Denver, you double team Jokic. He is the singular best player in the world at exploiting an approaching double team. There is literally not a player on planet Earth who is better at exploiting a double team.
I imagine when you play at like wherever you go to play basketball, that you're like the Jokic when you're out there.
Just slower. No, my legs are done, mate. We've got a few young guys in our team now, and one of them, he's only like 15, 16. He's just started playing senior basketball. His dad said to me after his first game, he said, "I like it how you just got the rebounds, made the kick ahead pass, and then just stood still and waited for everything to come back to you." It's a fast break. I'm not wasting my energy. I would have only made it to 3/4 court anyway. So, but yeah, look, I just don't know how. I don't know how this team is going to stop, even without Jamal Murray. I don't know how they're going to stop Jokic, and Michael Porter Jr. could go for 30 every single night. If his shot's falling, and his shot has been falling of late, he could legitimately hit 30 every single game. I don't know who stops him on that roster.
I think Portland has a shot. Maybe it's not a, 50-50 shot, but I think they got like a 20% chance maybe.
Geez, I'd divide that by 4. I think,
Really?
yeah, I think
So
that
you think this is like a sweep or like a 5-gamer? Not close.
I think Lillard will win a game off his own hand, but
Well,
otherwise it's going to be all
yeah,
Denver.
I think that's kind of my Lillard will get 1 or 2 by himself. The rest of the Trailblazers just have to pull it out.
Yeah, I just can't see who on that starting 5 stops Jokic and Porter. And then you go to the bench and you've got the most flammable defensive tandem in the world in Cantor and Melo. But we could see vintage Paul Millsap numbers here.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, Carmelo's, I mean, Millsap's as old as the
Cantor has
hills,
actually
but
been good for them.
he has been good on offense. He's a
Yes.
wonderful rebounder. And
Yes.
as soon as he gets the ball in the post, like, he's a great post play. His footwork's brilliant. He could go, you know, he's going to have someone like Jermichael Green on him, and he's just going to be too big and strong for him. So Cantor could legitimately go, you know, play 20 minutes a game and get 15 and 12. But what's he giving up on the other end?
Another
And
Celtics
that's
loss,
all-
by the way, there. Just had to throw that in there.
Yeah, I'd rather have Cantor right now than Tristan Thompson.
Absolutely. You'd rather have Gershon Yabusele, I reckon.
Oh.
Which, when you when you translate Gershon Yabusele from French, you know what it comes out as? Anthony Bennett.
It's a good one. He's in like China or something, I think, right?
Oh, I don't know where he
I
is, and
don't
I don't even care. He's just like a scant.
No,
memory, that
the
bloke.
real loss is not pulling off the Miles Turner sign and trade. That's the real
Yeah,
loss.
absolutely. That would have made Boston, even with the injuries, and you know, Turner's ended up injured anyway.
I mean,
but
for this season, who cares at this point? But future-wise, yeah.
Yeah, no, he would have been a perfect addition. I really don't know why Ainge didn't pull the trigger there, but you know, he works in mysterious ways, does Danny? Yeah, look, with this one, I honestly think Nuggets in 5, and that's purely out of respect for Damian Lillard.
I have a couple things before I let you go. You did make fun of me for my post a couple months ago saying that Chris Paul was the MVP. It looks a lot better today than it did a couple months ago. I think you might have to be
MVP.
Might have to just be like, hey, he's got a point here.
He's been brilliant for them, but
the Phoenix Suns are a 2 seed.
Yeah,
I didn't think I'd ever say that in my life.
No, I didn't expect it for another 10 years, if at all. But one thing with Phoenix is that they, we mentioned before that Dallas aren't a regular 5 seed because of that just shit show that was their roster at the start of the season. In this season, where every single team has been hit by injuries or hit by COVID absences, Phoenix haven't. And I've actually got it written down here somewhere. Where is it?
That's not like anybody's fault. You know?
No, it's not. But it's an advantage that they've had over other teams. So where is it? Here we go. CP, Booker, Bridges, and Ayton have missed 6 games between them. Like that is highly, highly unusual for this season, to have your best 4 players together for so long.
So who's your MVP? Where would you put Chris Paul, realistically?
Well, that was what I was going to say to you. Because I mean, Jokic is the MVP, and if Embiid didn't miss all that time with injuries, it would have been neck and neck.
I wrote it after Embiid got hurt, though. I think.
Yeah, you probably did, but I mean, Jokic is so far and away the MVP. It's not even close. But like, would you have him ahead of Embiid, Chris Paul?
Well, it depends. If Embiid was healthy, then no. But Embiid, he missed too many games.
But okay, so based on games missed, you'll have Chris Paul ahead of him.
Yes.
Would you have him ahead of Giannis? Okay.
You can't give Giannis the MVP 3 years in a row.
No, but I don't think he's the MVP this year. But like I said, I think he's had just as good a season. But would you put him ahead of Gobert?
Yes.
Would you put him ahead of Curry?
Golden State's too low of a seed, so yeah.
Would you put him ahead of Lillard?
Yes,
See,
barely.
Lillard's the cutoff for me. I wouldn't have him ahead of Jokic. I wouldn't have him ahead of Embiid, Giannis, Curry, Gobert. But when you get down to Lillard, that's where I'm going. Okay, that's probably the spot that Chris Paul
But
is
like
in.
with Curry, they're like a what, an 8 seed? You can't give the MVP to an 8 seed, a 7
I'm
seed.
not. I'm saying he's probably fifth to the MVP voting,
Okay.
maybe fourth. But what I'm saying is that there are all these other candidates ahead of Chris Paul. Like, you could make an argument that Chris Paul would be second on the MVP in his own team.
Where what seed would Phoenix be if Chris Paul was not traded for?
So, assuming they still have Rubio.
Correct.
Okay. Because it's tough to say because he has had a huge influence.
That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, his ability to close games and his
he's just a winner. Look at how bad the Thunder are. That team was a 4 seed last year. And I know they lost Gallinari and stuff, but like,
and Horford, and
there was no reason that the Thunder should have been a 4 seed last year.
Oh no, he got that. He really pushed that team hard. They were a genuinely surprising team.
And they were a genuinely bad team.
And this isn't to denigrate Chris Paul to say he's not, in the top 4 of the MVP, because at his age, and
there's never, I don't know if there's ever been a point guard ever in the history of the NBA. He's what, 37?
36, I think still. Yeah.
Who's been this good at 36, little tiny point guard?
Probably the only one I can think of would be Stockton. When Utah were making the finals in 96. Yeah, that's it. I reckon that's probably
point guards don't age like this.
Not little ones, no.
No.
And the thing is, both of those point guards, Stockton and Chris Paul, were both like, yes, they're both small, but they were both really physical as well. It's not like they just stood on the outside and jacked threes from 35. They're not like Trae Young type players, although Trae Young has improved as far as going to the basket, taking contact. But they were guys who spent their careers like hitting blokes. Like they would set really hard back picks on 6'8" blokes. They're two guys that have taken a pounding physically. They've both got bad knees by the time they're in their mid-30s. So, but yeah, the only one I can think of would be Stockton, who was leading the
How
Jazz
great of it
to NBA Finals at that age.
It would be such a great way to honor the career of Chris Paul. He's been criminally underrated for how many years?
Oh, I don't know whether he has, but he's got his nickname is literally Point God. That doesn't.
Okay.
That doesn't.
But I think there are a lot of people that blame him for the Clippers not getting over the hump. Yeah. I think people blame him for, you didn't take down the Warriors. Well, I mean, did you see what
it's the same thing with it's the same thing with Harden. People blame Harden for not taking down the Warriors, and I can tell you that happened in the 90s. People would go at Patrick Ewing, at Charles Barkley, at Karl Malone, at Gary Payton for not taking down Michael Jordan. It's like, well, if we're going to be second to him, that's probably all right, But going back to your thing about honoring him with an MVP, it's not a lifetime achievement award. It's the MVP for a season.
All right,
and there are better
but where
players.
Would Phoenix be?
There
are
more deserving players. Oh, I reckon they'd be a 6th seed, maybe 5th.
It's valuable.
Yeah, it is valuable, but it's not the most valuable.
Okay.
If we gave him a VP award, great, but not the MVP award.
Okay. Okay.
It's just, look, he's had a wonderful season, and he has done wonders to that franchise. Because let's face it, that was a franchise where the literal owner of the franchise brought in a goat that shat on the carpet of the general manager. Like, that is how much of a shit show Phoenix was.
I said their biggest franchise accomplishment was being in The Last Dance and getting it was like the mascot dunking the bull in the net. Do you remember that?
Oh,
that's like their biggest.
The gorilla dude, yeah.
Yeah.
He was the best mascot in the league through like when I was a kid.
I forget what his name is. What's the name of that mascot? I can't
remember either.
But in The Last Dance, when he dunked the bull in the net, that's like their biggest franchise accomplishment.
No, as soon as we finish this call, as soon as we finish this pod, I'm Googling that. It's going to bother me otherwise. No, but yeah, look, Chris Paul's been awesome this season. And saying he isn't the MVP isn't For all those people out there who are going to aggregate the crap out of this, we're not saying Chris Paul is bad. We're not saying Chris Paul is old or washed. He has been wonderful, but he is not the MVP for mine.
Okay. All right. Last thing. Give me your finals pick, and then like a little tidbit on if you believe the Utah Jazz are real contenders.
Geez, finals pick. That's we're going early here, mate.
Well,
we don't even know who's in the playoffs yet. We don't even know who's in the playoffs yet. Look, I genuinely have no idea. I mean, it could be any.
You can't do that.
No, I really don't, though. I mean, in the East, it's going to be one of Milwaukee, the Sixers, or Brooklyn. Buggered if I know which one it's going to be, because they're going to have to play each other at some point, and they all have strengths and weaknesses. Milwaukee has the best record when all those three teams have played each other, but they've very rarely played against a full strength Brooklyn or Sixers. So does Miami catch lightning in a bottle again now that everybody's healthy? In the West, I mean, the top two seeds both have really glaring questions, which will be a nice little segue. Whereas the two teams at the top of the play-in tournament, one's the defending champion, and the other has a guy that could win you as many games as he wants to off his own hand. The third seed has the likely MVP. The fourth seed has a 2 times final MVP. The West could go anywhere. I honestly don't know who's going to take this.
I'm just going to stick with Brooklyn. I don't know who's going to come out of the West. I'm just going to stick with the Nets.
Yeah, look, if you ask me to out and out name a favorite in the East, I would buy the hair on a bee's dick, say Brooklyn. But the West, I've got no idea. I really don't.
I feel better about Brooklyn than you do then.
Yeah, and that's nothing against Brooklyn. I just think that all three of those teams at the top of the East are really, really good.
They had a dunk, I think it was yesterday, where I think Blake Griffin like threw it behind their back and up. It was like,
yeah,
it was like kind of like a moment, like they're gonna figure it out.
Mate, that was globetrotter. that was awesome to watch.
It was like they're gonna figure it out. They'll be fine.
Yeah, the big thing that worries me with Brooklyn, like everyone talks about defense, and yeah, that is a bit of a concern, although I think they can just outscore anyone. But the big thing is health. Like they've played 8 games together, that big three. Harris has been out as well.
I think the good thing for them though, like they can actually almost in a weird way figure it out during the playoffs. Because they're gonna kill whoever they play in the first round.
Yeah, that's it. There's not even traditional 8 seed Orlando to take a first game as they seem to have done.
Like with the Lakers, they better bring it. And they got to bring it every time.
But by that stage, so this is where being a second seed probably hurts them, because they will have to, or more than likely, take on Milwaukee, where they will need to be ready. They don't get 2 rounds to get themselves into playoff shape.
Well, are we sure they're getting Milwaukee?
Well, yeah. Well, it's either, if they don't get Milwaukee, they're going to get Miami, and that's just as scary. But onto your Utah question. Look, Utah, Quinn Snyder has found a system that works. Like without a doubt, it this season is proof it works. They've got the best net rating by a mile. But
every time you hand out an award, it goes to a Utah guy.
Well, they've deserved a lot of it this year. Gobert deserves it. Ingles/Clarkson deserves 6th man. I don't think Snyder's coach of the year. I'd actually give that to Monty Williams. But
you're going to find a way to get Derek Favors an award.
He can get the VP.
I don't know what award it's going to be, but he's getting one.
Yeah, he and Chris Paul, 6th and 7th in the MVP.
Okay.
Look, the big thing's going to be now that teams will have the chance to properly scout, to properly scheme, and to adjust game by game to Utah. Utah could be this season's Milwaukee. They've got this magnificent system that destroys everyone.
That's a lot for you to say.
Yeah. Oh, but I'm a fairly balanced guy. I'll point out things that are wrong. I'm not a fanboy.
We have a lot of fanboys on this site.
Well, it took you to ask me who I supported before you knew who I supported, and I've been riding with you for 8 or 9 months by then. So I try to keep things as neutral as I can. But I honestly think Utah have a little bit of the last few seasons of Milwaukee to them, where they've found this magnificent system and they haven't had to try anything else. I found a stat that really disturbed me. When Donovan Mitchell has put up 25 or more shots, Utah are 1-6 this season. So that says to me when whatever they do isn't working, it's throw the ball to Donnie and go do something, and he's just not quite capable.
That's a stat right there.
Yeah. And
You
that's
came prepared. You have
to me,
notes.
of course I do. You know I research your shit.
This is my notes.
Yeah, I know. But so Trey, what are we going to talk about? I don't know, just going to wing it. But no,
It works, doesn't it? We got good chemistry.
we get good pods out, man. I mean,
Yeah.
look, Simmons and Russillo, fuck them. We're the best.
I agree.
But no, I honestly think Utah's got a bit of Milwaukee to them, where if someone can come up with a counter to Utah's plan A, we haven't seen plan B yet. We haven't seen plan C. Do Utah have that in their back pocket? And honestly, I don't know, because we haven't had to find out yet. But we will at some point in the playoffs, and that will determine how far.
I almost forgot to ask you this. This is my actual last question. Kyrie Irving, he was actually efficient. Now he's a loose cannon, but he was actually efficient. 50, 40, 90 club. I just wanted to
50, 40, 90, standing up for all these social, for all these social justices. Kyrie.
Oh, I know you love Kyrie Irving, so I just wanted to get your thoughts on him.
Was that being facetious? No, look, Kyrie, as you know,
you love him.
His moves are dazzling, but I've generally not been a fan.
That doesn't sound like you. He's actually your favorite.
No, I'm not a huge. Never been a huge Kyrie guy. I mean, you got to appreciate the skill.
I know,
but he has been, since Harden's come over. That was the dynamic I was worried about with Harden. Who would handle the ball? But Kyrie basically said it. Yeah, I'm a two guard. You run the plays. I'll just shoot the ball. I'll finish. And that plays into their skill sets perfectly, because Harden's an awesome passer who happens to be able to score 35 a game. Kyrie is just a gifted scorer, but that's all Kyrie is. And that's not a bad thing to be all. But
can I say this about Harden? People have crushed the Nets defense. He's actually a good low post defender.
He's a brilliant low post defender. He's built like a fucking cinder block. Like he's basically PJ
Nobody
Tucker,
talks about that,
but
though.
With moves. No, look, I've been talking about that for like 3 years. Like he is a great low post defender.
He is.
But he defends like PJ Tucker, and everybody talks about PJ Tucker's defense, but they don't talk about Harden's, because on the perimeter he gets cooked.
Oh yeah.
But I think Kyrie has been brilliant this season, and I wasn't really sure what we were going to get, especially
now. I know you're really unbiased. I never thought I'd hear those words.
Yeah. No, look, he has been outstanding. We talked about maturity with a lot of players through this pod. He has shown maturity in a basketball sense that I didn't think he had in him.
I think the biggest thing is he respects Durant. He respects Durant, so he'll buy in. I think that was the number one thing.
And I think there's a fair bit of respect for Steve Nash there as well. Like as much as he doesn't have the championships that two of those three guys had, he is a two-time MVP and a guy who quite literally revolutionized the game. Like the style of play that Brooklyn do now, the sort of stuff that Kyrie and Harden do, that might not have existed if Steve Nash played soccer. But he genuinely revolutionized the game 15 odd years ago, 20 years ago. So I think there's a fair bit of respect for him as well. He's tried some stuff. Playing Bruce Brown as effectively a 5, which is like on paper just looks a ludicrous idea, but it's worked an absolute treat. Like he's experimented with stuff, and I think those players respect him enough. All three of them respect him enough to give him.
Well, that's the guy Durant wanted too, right?
Well, reportedly, yeah. I mean, he's never come out and said it, but reportedly. Kyrie has traditionally been exceptionally hard on his coaches, even Brad Stevens, who's a genius. But he has ceded the spotlight to Durant. He ceded control of the game to Nash. He said he controlled the ball to Harden. And I didn't think Kyrie had that in him.
Okay. We'll check back in 2-3 weeks, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Or-
Should we maybe do something for when the playing tournament's done and we actually know who the 1 and 2 seeds are playing?
Yeah, we can do a little NBA shorts on it or something.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, as you know, to use a Traism, we'll wing it.
We'll wing it. Anyway, that's our guy, Jarrod Prosser. Make sure to follow him. Hey_it's_JP. I'll do it again just so that you can laugh at me. Make sure to follow Jarrod. It is hey_it's_JP.
Hey, you got it.
Yeah.
I swear I haven't changed it for ages just because I like watching you stumble over it at the end of pods.
Yeah, I figured that was the case.
It's a lot of fun. It's a little brightness in my dark days.
Yeah. Big thanks to our guy, all day AJ27 in the booth. So I don't have to edit these anymore. It's a big help for me. Myself, Trey Dalbert, of course, we're brought to you by Vendetta Sports Media. Check out the website. Follow me on TikTok. I'm on TikTok, actually. I don't run the account. This guy runs the account for me. It's just the clips to the podcast.
Yeah, maybe it's my middle-aged manness, but I just can't bring myself.
Adapt or die. I'm with the kids.
It actually gets some
Anyway.
views. I mean, it's easy it's easy to get your content exposed. I mean, we're just using what the platform has
clicks.
given us.
That could have been
You know
Swahili
what really
to me,
grinds my
Alex.
gears? You, America.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
And me and Alex are actually getting gym memberships, so maybe we'll post something on that. Who knows?
Already had that in my head.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching, listening. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and we will see you next time.